Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. I'm Andy.
Brian.
And I'm Will, the birthday boy.
The birthday boy. So, man, already right out, I was going to be like, hey, happy birthday to Will. It was Will's birthday last week on the 18th, so happy birthday, Will. Do you want to tell everyone how old you are now or no? Are we doing that?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm just old.
You're old? Yeah.
But right here, I'm young.
What's the line that you just start saying old? What number is that line set at?
I think, the norm is after you're 40 years old, people say you're old.
Got 10
years.
years.
So
that's
now
true.
after the 50, you're ancient. I'm in the ancient category.
I get called
now.
sir a lot more nowadays than I used to be.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm like sir
we do
now.
live in a big military town.
That's true, but it's not really because of that, but thanks anyway.
Okay, sir.
I still get carded.
Okay, we got to start because Brian's over here saying he's getting carded. Get out. Get out of here with that.
Well, that's because of the hair.
I carded to make sure I'm the right person.
Okay, guys, there was a really big decision recently here at the San Diego City Council. They passed sweeping amendments to regulate ADUs. Now, the details about this are not all 100% clear, but let's talk about some of the general things we do know. There was this massive City Council meeting. I say massive. It was a regular-sized meeting just with a lot of more people coming in to voice their opinion. I saw here that there was nearly 200 people that came and spoke at this meeting. Memo, you were watching this at your desk. So I saw you watching this and people giving their public comments. So let's talk about what's going on with the ADU. What were some of the problems for anyone who's not aware of it? Well, let's catch them up. What were some of the problems and what are some of the pros and cons of the arguments that are being made?
I don't know that there was a lot of pros.
Yeah, I don't think people really like the cul-de-sac complexes.
So let's tell the audience who maybe don't know, or maybe it's not happening. Maybe they're fortunate enough that the problems aren't happening in their neighborhood. Let's talk about a couple of that to kind of set the tone for what we got to talk about.
Yeah, one of the biggest complaints was actually this whole bonus ADUs where you were just practically unlimited to build these ADUs. So you could have a single family resident in the back, you're building a 10 ADUs, but there was not a lot of parking space. And so that was what people's discussions was mostly about, the parking space. If in case of emergency and anything happens, how do we get out of this situation? And so that was a big concern. Obviously, if there's more units, there's going to be more vehicles. The parking space is going to be limited. That's going to allow other people, if they have a 2-car driveway, that's going to cause it where maybe some of your neighbors going to actually have to take one of your parking spaces or something. So that was the biggest complaint, is just parking structure and there's too many homes in one lot.
So for those of you who don't know what the ADU bonus program, it is that you can build upwards an unlimited amount of ADUs that fit on that physical space. Of course, still to building code. You can't just do 2 units side by side, 100 stories tall, things like that. There's still height requirements and things like that, depending on what part of town you're in, especially with flight patterns and things like that.
Absolutely.
Also, cities had certain ordinances and whatever, but the city of San Diego kind of had this kind of open book on just go build however many you can physically fit on the place. But then it created downstream problems. You have congestion issues, you have density problems, ingress, egress issues when it comes to emergency vehicles. And that's all before you even get to any sort of noise complaints or trash pickup and all that. Because hey, and you mentioned the cul-de-sac thing, Brian. So it's if you got the end of the cul-de-sac and the house that has a much larger square footage on the lot, you can put a lot more ADUs on there. Yeah. But it's I saw one person in the comments okay, well, what about trash pickup? There's 6 houses on the cul-de-sac, but then you build 40 in the back of one of those 6 houses. Now we got 46 houses and all the trash that comes with that too. So there were some legitimate concerns. It's not just people being griping neighbors in their communities.
Yeah. But you know what? Again, there's also other properties that didn't build that many ADU bonus ADUs, accessory dwelling units, and they're still complaining about that. So there's a complaint, a little bit of everything. Some of the pros were that a lot of people need this, especially with the way finances are currently right now. That helps them offset by converting their garage to either a studio or converting it to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, where they're going to receive some type of form of rental income to help them offset with their normal monthly bills. Is something that's it's considered a pro for a lot of people. And they're trying to just take this away also for people to prevent them from doing so.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the demand was definitely there, and we did see a lot of people take advantage to it. But just like everything, once they full force went with it, you started to see, where the cracks were at, and where things started to begin to fall in between those cracks. So I feel moving forward, this really just puts a cap on the people that actually know how to do it. Everybody's still going to maneuver in their own way. They're still going to be able to profit as much as they want. Maybe not as much, but they'll adjust. But the biggest thing here is that I feel that too many people were feeling like, like all these houses are being built. Where's my space going to go? And now the privacy that you were so dear holding close, now it's basically gone.
Yeah.
So do you see their baby, in the regular ADU program, how it used to be was that the size of the ADU you could build was proportionate to the total lot size and the footprint of your main house, and there was like kind of this ratio.
Correct, the FAR.
Do you think that is just going to be basically the new rule, or do you think that there's still going to be some exceptions for certain places where they can go 2-story, 3-story high and maybe build more than 1 or 2 and go to 5 or 10 or 12?
No,
is there still a case to be made for that?
No, absolutely. They're not just going to remove everything, from a certain lot. Certain lots, it's considered with your FAR, which is your floor area ratio. So a lot of these lots are going to allow for such type units to go up, and you'll be able to go 2-3 units, 2-3 floor, even, just you're going to be able to build on that. The only thing that's going to matter is that lot, what it's going to allow you to build on that lot. Where before you could just have a 5,000 square foot lot and you were building like 8 units on that. It's just a little unrealistic to do that and take advantage of the bonus ADU, which kind of gave a lot more flexibility to some of these builders.
Okay. So do you guys think that ultimately, where do the chips fall for you? Do you think that there being some amendments is a good thing, is a bad thing? Who does it help? Who does this hurt? Give me some of your front line perspective on this.
I think it helps the community members that, obviously want to hold their property, as private as possible and have their communities be, as less congested as it could be. And the people that I guess, don't benefit for them is, the investors or the savvy homeowners that are looking to maximize their profit or maximize, their square footage, to where before you were able to, like Will said, put more than, as much as you could in a 5,000 square lot. I believe now they changed it to if you're 5,000 or below, you're maxed at 4 total. If you're in between 5,000 to 10,000 square feet, you're around 5 to 6, and anything 10,000 or more, you could do 7 max, and then it goes into knowing exactly what that space is actually able to do.
Yeah, I just think if you're an investor, depending on your experience of investing, you're gonna start looking, pay more attention to what your appetite is, because there's a lot of investors like myself. I like to stay within the 4 units or under. I like to stay in the single family resident type of financing and not go into the commercial. There's some people that say, I don't want that. I want 8 to 20 units, and so they're gonna have to just pay more attention to those lots.
Yeah. So, I think that there's a window not a window, I guess there's going to be a sweet spot. I guess that's the better term. There's going to be a sweet spot where the properties that have the larger size lots are still going to be those ones that maybe people are overpaying for on the purchase side, knowing that they can still do all this on the back end. If there's going to be, let's say, a ceiling, no pun intended, maybe no, you know what? Pun intended. If there's going to be a ceiling on the number of units you can do based on proportionate amount of lot square footage, then I would think, looking down the line, that people who are investors or want to buy their own place and do the building like we're talking about, I think they're still going to lean towards those that got more, that have more space, regardless of whatever kind of problems it might cause in the community, simply because there's still a housing demand issue. There's still an affordability issue. It's not, I saw someone in the comments here that's like, if you can't afford a house in San Diego, then move somewhere else where it's cheaper. It's like, okay, but that's like a loaded comment that doesn't consider anything else like your employment and who you work for and whether you're single or married or whether you have kids or don't kids or whether you're taking care of parents that are here. It's like completely disregards all the other variables about someone's life. Just, oh, you can't afford here, go move somewhere else. Like, that's not necessarily the nicest answer,
right?
If it were only that easy, right? Well, yeah, but again, like even if you consider the conveniences of San Diego, but there's still a demand in San Diego. There's density issues in San Diego, and even in places where ADUs aren't the main problem, there's still a transportation problem. Yeah. Like, sorry, North Park, it's really hard to get around North Park right now and find a place to park because everything is like bike lane central, and that's fine too for people who live there and want that. But there's people I know that live there that they say they don't like it.
Yeah.
And even though it wasn't it was imposed on them, and they have more density with big construction happening more on the apartment and luxury apartment side, and it's not the ADU stuff still. So there's clearly a density or a demand issue for housing in San Diego, and this was an attempt to help maybe solve some of that.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel the city also benefits a lot from investors and homeowners, building ADUs because it's revenue, and it also helps with bringing more inventory for people to be able to live it without, the city full on, making it accessible for builders to actually build. It helps out in some sort of way. I'm sure it helps out not as much as we would want to see, houses, being built for people to be able to, take those spaces, but it does help.
It does create tax revenue, and I mean that's another part of this.
It's like a business for them as well.
And and I did not hear people go make public comments or not, but there's a part of this I'm sure on the city side, but they have to be looking like, wait a minute, all of this additional square footage, all this reassessment, this is property tax revenue for us. That helps us on our top line of revenue received at the city level. Yeah. So this is going to clamp down some of that as it's ratcheted down. I don't know what that means for the budget of the city, but it is a variable that we're going to see the consequence of at some point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I tell you, I never thought that you could actually see the public hearing online. It was very fun and interesting to see all the people's opinions, and you're going, it started at 6, and I had to shut it down it started at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and still at 6, I'm like, I'm done. I got to go. This was a lot. And so the majority of people that attended were against the whole EDUs. And really, again, what they were against is just you're overbuilding in some places. Yeah. Where it's creating situations where it should have been foreseen up front, but it also seemed like the city was not paying attention to it and just allowed it, hey, just build it out and let's see how it all goes.
You guys remember that house in Winding Walk that they built that was not up to like standards of the community, and it was just a massive house, and every other house was a cookie cutter, but this one house somehow got like a special design, and then
a planned unit development.
And a planned unit development, and then they went and they made a big deal about it. Why is it that house got to build that, but every house under that block had to stay to the HOA like rules, and they're still able to get it done.
There's a house in Bonita on the cross street from where I used to live when I grew up, and there's a big house that actually is the size of 2 lots because they had 2 lots, and all the other homes are like single-story homes. There's this huge house.
Just sits.
But my point was, it just looks so unproportionate, and I feel that's how it looks like when you build a huge apartment, quote unquote, ADU complex in the back.
Yeah.
And there's just a small like single family residence neighborhood. It's like, yo, what's going on here?
Typically, I'm not on the side of like increased regulation, but I think this is an example where it's like, well, 2 things at once. It's where you give an inch, they'll take a mile. This is why we're dealing with this, is because they're it's open season on building, and let's go do it, and people just went and did it. Like, hey, wait, rush. Now it's a problem. The dial's too far to the right. It's hot. Okay, dial it back again. So it's that, and again, I'm not always on the side of like regulation, but this is one where I can honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I understand why they do this. This isn't because I dislike investors or anything like that. It's just I understand why people don't want 40 additional units in their cul-de-sac of 6 houses. I get that because the other look, not everyone in that neighborhood has the same space, can make the same choice. All right, that's fine, but if they've lived over 30 years. This wasn't around 30 years ago. Yeah. This wasn't around 10 years ago. So it's not like they made a bad choice back then. We can't like punish people for living where they live and loving their home when their neighbor's doing something that's like maybe negatively affecting or impacting the neighborhood as a whole. So I'm not mad about those. I'm not mad about that either,
No, absolutely. I mean, policies are meant to be changed as you move forward. You think you have everything dialed in, but it's not until you really start building and allowing to build, so you kind of go through the motion where you start realizing, well, maybe that shouldn't have been done. Maybe we can retract from that. So they're not saying you shouldn't be building, it's just don't overdo it in some areas. And, there's some savvy investors that already, or I'm going to say investors / builders that already understand the rules, and they're like, wing.
Even better now.
I already know what I'm going to do there.
Right.
I'm going to maximize my profits at its fullest, and who cares about the inconvenience that we pose to the community?
Right. Yeah.
So
that's true.
Again, policies are meant for people to get in there. they will change, they'll adjust. And I think, to adjust policies, you have to be going through them to see the flaws.
Yeah.
I think this is overall probably for the better. I mean, I know this is an early take. It's probably for the better when it comes to some of these density and congestion problems. I think that, well, if this is displacing people that were intending to move to these places, they're going to end up somewhere else in San Diego. So this doesn't necessarily solve the demand issue at all, because let's say you're not allowed to build 40 anymore. You're only allowed to build 10 okay, that's 30 people that still got to go somewhere else, or 30 households that got to go looking somewhere else. So I could see in the city of San Diego, instead of ADUs building up, I can see that demand spreading out into other areas and maybe looking for spots there.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a difference, right? The ADUs that I'm building, it's a one story. And now that I'm adding that second story, it almost feels like I can see you. I can see your backyard. Like privacy just automatically there is none.
Yeah.
Because of that fact.
Yeah,
and it's pretty
sky.
crazy. Yeah. You're just looking, you're like, oh, it doesn't conform to the area, because most of the properties in the area are, single story homes. But at the same time, hey, families do grow. And if you want to stay in that same property for a longer period of time, there's a lot of people that also build up.
Yeah.
And they don't get punished for it. So I think the ADU rules, the great thing about it, I see ADU staying around for a long time. I do disagree that you shouldn't be building so many units on one lot. Pay attention to the surrounding. If there's plenty of parking, if you're able to take off your garbage cans, and, so little things like that, in case of a fire, can the fire department still be able to go out there and assist?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, I think we're probably going to see this one again once everything kind of settles in. But I wanted to bring it up because it's kind of the talk of the town as it is here in real estate in San Diego. So thanks, guys, for that. We're going to move right away to NerdWallet. Brian, you found this one, right? You sent this one to me today. The best home improvement loans for June 2025. And this is relevant because we've been talking about HELOCs a lot, but it's not the only solution. It's a solution that we can offer. But I want to talk about these home improvement loans because I know that people are hearing about these. There are a couple of pros. I think I see more cons in this situation than pros, but I wanted to talk to you guys about it and get your take on it. So this is when people are trying to get financing to upgrade their kitchen, or they're trying to bring their house up to snuff, if you will, and look more like the neighborhood houses. If you've been going 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years without painting your house, putting a new roof on, swapping out those windows, putting a new garage door in, there's some deferred maintenance there, and then this might be the way. So where do you guys want to start with this one? And take it away.
So one of the things I noticed from the beginning was that this was a complete different, just like a personal loan. So although it does help you, get your reparations done, or additions, or whatever it might be.
Reparations?
I mean, restorations.
Restorations. I got it.
I know. I just wanted to make a pit stop at reparations real quick.
You know what that means, right? Okay, anyways, moving forward.
Hey, I'm getting this personal loan because I owe reparations. Like, that's what I'm going to take it out of my house and pay reparations for my equity.
So,
dang, dude.
So one of the things that I did notice is that I think it comes down to people's situation and priority. And that's going to be the biggest kicker, because if let's say your roof caved in or your roof is broken and you really need a new one, maybe you can't take a route that's going to take a little bit longer, although it might be a better deal. You need that solution now. So I think it comes down to your situation and how high of a priority it is that you need that money. So for example, if you know that you want to make some additions in the summer and it might require for you to get some permits, you maybe want to look into something that's, that gives you a little bit more flexibility, like a HELOC or a cash out refinance, where you're going to be able to, not off the bat pay that whole full amount, but maybe ease into your payments and be able to have that budget there ready for when it's needed. On the flip side, like I said, if your situation needs an instant solution now, then you're probably better off doing a loan like they mentioned in the article, where it's going to be very quickly accessible, but it does come at the exchange of, higher rate, higher terms, where, home equity line of credit for the average part, the rates are in the single digits, where a personal loan or a loan like this, it's going to be in the double digits and low double digits, to start off. And that's having like the best of the best in credit tiers.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's weird. I was thinking about this today. It's kind of like in this sweet spot. It's in this like no man's land. It's in this dead zone. God, I'm having a hard time getting my words out today, guys. I'm so sorry. It's like in this no man's land dead zone, where it's like maybe the credit's too bad that you can't get a HELOC. you might have equity, but you need to do the work on your house and you can't qualify for a home equity line of credit either because your income's bad or your credit, whatever. Like, even in this article, it's like, if you have a credit score between 300 and 629, I'm like, geez, 300, even if it's 620, like your percentage rate's maybe 20%. Like that's really high. HELOC's definitely not that high. You definitely got a credit problem, but if you don't have another choice, this is your choice. Even at like 640, 660, it may not be favorable compared to a HELOC.
Yeah.
But if you can get that 720, 740 or higher, then the HELOC might be right around the same rate as something like this. But then this is the other issue. What about the amount that you need? If you only need 30 grand or 40 grand, that's different than needing $100,000 or $200,000 out of your house. So maybe you don't need to take such a big chunk. You can do the smaller thing here and pay it off a lot quicker than it would be if it was a home equity line of credit. Just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. So what would your advice be to somebody who maybe can't qualify for a HELOC? Well, actually, that's not what I want to ask. Do you think that still trying to qualify for the HELOC first is better than taking a loan like this, or should they look at a loan like this first and then go to a HELOC as their second option?
My answer would be to really understand your situation, because that's going to tell you the urgency that you need to move in. So if you know that you need to move quick, maybe lean towards, that like construction loan or that renovation loan, because it's going to be a little bit faster on the process, maybe the qualification as far as, what documents are needed. But if you have time and, you want to have the opportunity of perhaps paying less in fees or paying less in interest, then, look into, leveraging your home equity, because that's going to give you a lower payment. If you have good credit, if you're not, drowning in debt, that's going to allow you to access funds in a way where it's accessible if you need to, use some amount, not the full amount or all amount at once, rather than, paying that full amount at once. If you get that construction loan, you're going to be able to just, pay for what you need as you're getting it.
It's kind of like, it's like one step short of a hard money, like a straight up hard money loan. I can also see, based on like the description and the definition, it shares a lot of the same characteristics as a hard money loan. The interest is a little higher, the term's a little shorter. In this case, you can apply online, get an answer in a couple of minutes, if you will. But I'd say if you're going to use the money for, I say 12 months or less, and I would say definitely focus on the less part. Like if you can pay back in 3 or 4 or 5, that's going to be much better off that way than going to 12. If you need 12, then you need 12. That's just a situation. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. But it basically feels a lot like a hard money loan, and I don't necessarily think it's bad. I mean, I'm going to go back to something we talked about with HELOCs last week. If you're using home equity line of credit in order to pay off debt, like you have personal debt and your house is bailing you out, that can only be good for you if you also address the behavioral problem that caused the debt in the first place. If it was not a life event or something major and catastrophic that caused the debt to be taken in, then we have a spending issue and a budgeting issue to talk about that is going to long-term help you more than just paying off your debt once and then calling it a day. In this situation, if there's work that needs to be done on your house to maybe outfit it to fit your senior parent or to fit yourself, you have to make modifications to how you get in the house, how you get out of the house. You have to make repairs. You got to bring it up to code if it's out of code. Like there's situations I can see where people might need to use this kind of money. And if you don't have income, at least to qualify for a HELOC or the credit, then this is probably your best choice. Or maybe only choice.
Unless you're in dire need, something like this would stay place. That's my opinion. Especially when there's a lot more options out there. Like there's your Fannie Mae, your Freddie Mac, there's FHA 203K. There's a lot of other financing opportunities where you can finance certain renovations. A home equity line of credit can serve 2 purposes. It can serve the purpose where if you're looking to do renovations to it, then utilize the money for that. But there's times where you may not need so much, because a lot of times we think, okay, so I'm gonna need renovations like $150,000. Next thing you know, I got a friend that knows how to paint, knows how to do this. It cost me only $75,000. What am I gonna do with that extra $75,000? Maybe I can pay down a credit card, or maybe I can put that money into an investment account where I'm gonna probably earn a little more money. Who knows? We don't understand that person at that moment. It's just good to have options, So I think this information and advice is really good, but it really pertains to that. You have to identify that person that's going to fit what mold.
Yeah.
I totally
This is why I was going towards the hard money analogy, is because it's kind of like if you're just cornered into it and like that's your only option, then that's the one you got to take. And I'd say last thought for me is if you're taking $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, that's most likely going to be able to be paid back pretty easily if you are also agreeing that that's what you can take out, do it. If that's on, if you're last resort is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
My perspective was along the lines of that. Why utilize, another type of debt when you have one that's very secure, low interest rate, and it's more stable for you to be able to pay back because you're always going to pay your house before you pay your debt. So I feel that that's going to be a little bit more of an accessible route if you're a homeowner, and if you're really looking at the route of taking a regular loan like that, really, really think about it because down the line you might regret your decision.
No, absolutely. I mean, the cool thing about that, it says that there's no lien attached to your property or anything like that. It doesn't, and if you did miss the payment for whatever reason, it doesn't affect your credit scores.
Yeah. No, it's an unsecured loan is what it is.
Yeah, it's unsecured loan. So that's what you get with that. But
Yep.
obviously, they're putting more of this information out there because we're starting to see a lot more people pivoting into it, going into different directions.
There must be a demand for this if there's
There
a
is.
product on the market for it. So if there's a product for it, that means there's demand. And if that demand's being met, then there's going to be money on the back end that people are making. So
Yeah. And we're seeing it here in San Diego, particularly because of the whole ADU, the accessory dwelling unit rules and regulations. People are just saying, well, I can convert my garage out. What can I add to this, to our growing family, so I don't have to displace myself? How can I just do a loan? So we're starting to hear more of this stuff.
Yeah. All right. Good, guys. Good. So we're going to pivot and go to our last article of the day. This is, the Fed. So the Fed at their latest meeting held their key interest rate steady. They did not decrease the rate. There's no drop in rates. They did not increase rates. They're staying the same. It's still between 4.25% and 4.5%. Look, I got my own opinion about this. This is a sentiment move. They are not making enough data-driven comments to make me think otherwise. And even the comments that other analysts are making about, the tariffs might this and might that. There's a lot of might and should and could conversation going on.
Certainty.
And a lot of uncertainty and this and that's none of this is measurable things. You can ask people sentiment and then say that what your measured sentiment was, but it's still sentiment. It's not data, and that's the part that I think that's very curious to me. I think that they don't know what to do. I think they're paralyzed, and their best bet is just to kick the can down the road and wait until something next happens first for them to react to. Because again, I said it a million times. The Fed is reactionary. They don't cause things to happen. They react to things that happen.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw this emoji of Jerome Powell. It's a cartoon, and he was on a wheelchair with broken arms, broken legs, and everything, and saying, "I will remain still."
Oh my God, dude, that's terrible.
Like nothing's gonna happen, right, in the market, and it's so true. Nothing's gonna happen. He's just not budging, even after our president saying, "Hey, you got to do this," and we see all the financial indicators that will allow for a rate decrease, a Fed rate decrease. Is just not happening.
All the things they said they wanted to see, we're seeing.
They're there, and it's exceeded those expectations.
It's baffling to me that in recent history, their stated objectives are now being maintained or met and maintained, and still they're refusing to budge. And on the other side, I'll say there's a part of me that even though I want a different outcome than what we're getting, I can respect the fact that he is not just caving and bending the knee to what the president is barking for. I can respect that because it does give me a sense that there's still some autonomy and he's not just going to have his arm twisted behind his back to do whatever whoever's in charge says. Yeah. Because I really don't want that on either side of the aisle, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. I don't want that person just bending the arm of the Fed chair. So I respect that, but at the same time, there's a line in the sand for me too, where I'm like, at this point, given the data you were tracking, you should be doing something. We already have inflation down to 2.3%. Their target of 2% they've had since they started raising rates all the way back years ago.
2022.
So now it's like, we're going to get inflation back to 2%, inflation back to 2%, inflation back to 2%. But there was, a while ago, an argument that was made by analysts and key people in that sphere saying, hey, if it gets to 3, that should be our tripping point where the tripwire, that should be the tripwire for us to start doing rate cuts because of how things have repriced themselves into the market. The sentiment at that time was when we get to 3%. Well, now we've surpassed 3% by a lot and still no move.
Yeah, I mean, and just looking from, the patterns on the graph that's on this article, every time it neutralizes out, it starts to drop. And I think from the last neutral zones in each part of this graph, it starts to come down. And I feel we're at that point where, they know that they need a cut. And this might be unpopular opinion, but I'm okay that they didn't cut, because next time around, it could mean that they don't have to do 0.25%. They could do 0.5%. They could do 75 basis points. But I feel that this does give us the indicator that then the next time around, they are going to have a cut, and they are going to have a more aggressive approach at what rates are going to be doing.
Here's the thing I don't understand. I understand this. I just disagree. Let me rephrase that. They did 3 rate cuts last year, and we're at the end of June, and they've done none this year. So if they're going to do 3, they're going to have to do 3 1/4 points or whatever. But if they're not going to do 3, just to do hand in hand what they did last year, it's going to have to be a bigger cut.
That's exactly.
But here's again, guys. That tells you something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If they hold, and then drop by 50 basis points or 0.5%, 3/4 or a whole percent, then that tells you something. And what that's retroactively going to mean is, oh, see, y'all waited too long. And then you waited too long, this other thing reared its ugly head, and now you got to drop rates. So I think it's just, it's like on one hand, steady and okay, but on the other hand, I think in the rearview mirror, when we look we going on the road long enough, we look back at this, I think we're going to say they should have dropped it this meeting.
Well, do you feel that they're in the position where they don't want to get pointed at for being the reason that things happen, but either way, whether whatever decision they make, whether they take too long to drop rates or they drop the rates, they're going to get pointed at either way, because everybody's going to have an opinion of what should have been done?
Yes, but the thing about them having a stance of having price stability and them getting inflation back down to where 2% is, like those have been stated goals. So if they've already made such tremendous progress on their stated goals, then if it's gone past other metrics as well, then reducing the rate won't hurt what their goals are. And I think the fear is what's making them stay neutral now. I think they're holding out of fear, not out of data. Does that make sense?
And I'm not an expert in policy. It does make sense though. Not an expert in policy, but I heard that before we got into this whole cluster F, like these last couple of years, the Fed would actually move quicker if they anticipated that things were going to be, better forecasted, like in the past. And now I feel like you said they're just afraid to make a move because you don't know what's going to happen at the end of what the decision is, because they've made moves and they don't get the results that they want.
This is a real long shot I'm about to say, but we have not heard the word soft landing for a long time, right?
We haven't heard.
So here we come for hard,
right?
Again.
If they are able to pull this off and go silent on the word soft landing for like 12 months, and then eventually make a cut in the fall, and then land softly, they're going to take that victory lap and go, well, we achieved a soft landing. It just took a lot longer than we thought.
They'll flip it around.
Yeah. And if you want to gamify it, they could just, this is so stupid. This is so hypothetical. I hate this conversation. They could just do it on purpose to then go say, hey, you know what? We achieved soft landing.
Yeah.
At this point, because like, if you really think about it, like if all the metrics are there, if all the signs are pointing there, then if we know that the data is all pointing at drop the rates, make a cut, then I think it's just more sentiment and feeling that they're not making a move now. And then we could jump into that argument, but I mean, like, what else makes sense?
I think this is a case where people, if they needed to get a HELOC, they should do it now. Because if the Fed is going to drop rates or hold rates or drop them, then that means your HELOC that's connected to the Fed funds rate is only going to go down over the course of time.
That and auto loans.
Yeah, auto loans, credit cards, all those things that your personal debts are connected to directly. And if you're just somehow hearing this for the first time from us, mortgage rates are not directly connected to the Fed, but the sentiment of the Fed rate does dump sentiment into the mortgage-backed security market where our money comes from. So there is an indirect correlation to that. But I think that this is the case where, if you can get the HELOC now, it might be at its highest rate now for the foreseeable future over the next 12, 18, 24, 36 months. If the Fed is going to be dropping into a lower rate environment, your HELOC will be also dropping at the same rate. So,
and the Fed's getting a lot of pressure.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of pressure, and Jerome Powell is, I think his term is up May of 2026. So now we're within the 12-month window of when he's going to term out, and there's going to be a new Fed chair. So whether he is booted by the president or they let him ride this thing out and ride off into the sunset.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's probably what's going to happen. I can't imagine that, it's worth booting the Fed president with less than 1 year left on his term.
Yeah.
I don't see an advantage to that, So So, anyways, we just basically solved nothing in right here, did we?
Yeah.
No, we didn't. It's just
Not
the
at all.
same thing that's been happening. Another Fed meeting that just went silent pretty much with no anticipation of making moves or anything.
Market
It's just, it almost feels like stubbornness, right? Like, I have all this data and I know that everything's going in the right direction, but I'm just going to be stubborn and not change anything.
Yeah, and the market was numb to it too.
They
The
didn't
mortgage-backed
take
security was
any
numb.
move at
Everyone
all.
was like, "Oh yeah, this is what we expected. Yeah, everything's yep, no big deal. No,
Nothing to see here.
It was like no rocking the boat, no
And then
wave
the
at
other
all.
thing was, consumers are doing good. They're still spending, da 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 da. But what people don't realize is we're utilizing the spending based on what's being spent with credit cards.
I know.
And we are a country that doesn't save any money. Our savings are in the negative.
Yeah.
And so all these things are not really shown out there to the public to help them understand what direction we're really going. I just think it's beneficial for Uncle Pao just to, all right, well, I see people spending, so inflation's not a big thing or anything. Like, let's just keep prices where they're at. Keep eggs high.
And that's what the argument that they were saying, that the Fed doesn't really see what everyday people are seeing. So they see the data, and to them, the data, oh, it's good. Yeah. I mean, eggs are like, what, $10? But yeah, no, it's good on the data. Everybody can still pay it based on the numbers. But in reality, there's people that are using the credit cards to be able to just, make that bridge.
Oh, yeah. No, we're starting to see more people wanting to tap into their equity.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, because they're starting to see my credit card debt is increasing. When I go to the gas, it's increasing. When I go to the grocery store, that's increasing. When you're going out, I mean, we went out. I didn't know you can buy a drink now for $18 to $23.
Oh,
Jesus Christ. Why
Like,
would you?
what? Wait.
Yes,
What?
yes,
Wait,
yes,
what's
yeah.
the story here?
$18 to $23 is what a drink costs when you go out to a restaurant, and depending on what drink you want, what liqueur you want in there. If you want some Absolute vodka, well, maybe you're in the $18. If you want Belvedere, you're now in the 23 realm.
Yeah, you could be
so
pushing.
Hey, listen
these
to
are
what
Grey Goose, right? Like
Uncle
these-
Andy's learning that the alcohol prices are high on the menu.
Yeah.
Because I ain't over there I'm not buying that. I'm just not buying.
I get it, but we were out in vacation.
Dang.
So obviously when you're in vacation, a lot of people still travel. It doesn't matter where their finances are. A lot of times it's like, let me just get away so I can just, decompress and figure things out. And we go and enjoy life as you're supposed to. But then you go to a restaurant, you see like, oh, dang, that cost a lot more than what you thought. It's two people going out there and eating. And next thing you know, you're dropping $150, $250. Right?
Woo.
To
Yeah.
a lot of people, that may not be a lot, but the most of the people,
No, that's a lot of money.
that's quite a bit. And so what do? You put on a credit card.
Yeah.
I don't,
later.
and especially after a drink, you're like, who cares about it right now?
put
I'll
it
think
You
about
know
it
that?
later.
Hey, take care of this later.
But
oh my god.
that's what's happening is, consumer
Yeah.
confidence has been down. It's been going downhill because of everything
Yeah.
that's going on. And
Yeah.
we just continue to get into debt.
Yeah, and I think it's just important to reach out for the help. Reach out to just know, have a temperature check, see where you're at, because I've been getting a lot of calls as well from my clients saying, hey, like I got a lot of debt, bro. How do I pay off of it? And he was telling me like, yeah, my minimum payment is $250, but I have to pay $500 a month just to kind of weigh out that interest. And he's like, I want to wipe everything off. He's wiping off $80,000 except for his car and his 2 houses that he owns. But he's like, I don't want to have any of the debt. I'd rather have it under one bill, my house, and that's it.
yeah.
Where it's tax
Smart.
write-off, it means the most.
Yeah.
It means the most.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. What was your favorite part of the show today, Brian?
My favorite part of the show was, how we took a very, very detailed time to not fix the interest rate
jeez.
policy at all. We just really just gave our thoughts, and we'll see what happens next month.
Hey, you know what this guy said last week? He's like, the favorite part of my show was Cotality, which used to be CoreLogic. And I sit here like this, like, sure it was. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Memo was your favorite part of the show.
My favorite part of the show, obviously, the accessory dwelling units. I live by it. I breathe it. I think a lot of people should be utilizing their garage space, empty space, convert that into a accessory dwelling unit. If you have a ton of equity, build that out. Turn into a little, a money machine. Your property. Look at it differently. The cool thing about it is what I did like is, as myself building an ADU, I'm kind of like, well, I'm doing it. I don't think about the neighbors. So it gave me a different perspective just to kind of see it in their eyes. And you just have to go in it with a little more consideration.
Yeah, I think that actually the ADU topic is my favorite one from today too, but I like it from the refinement perspective.
Yes.
I think that we're going to have a better process having learned what not to do. And sometimes even though it might seem lucrative for that window where the opportunity was wide open, in retrospect, I think what will happen is make the program better, even though it might feel more restrictive from number of units per lot or lot size. I think it's actually going to hopefully raise some of the standards of expectations for ADUs, which long term will make housing better for San Diego. That's what I really am hoping for coming out of that conversation.
Yeah, no, I like that refinement of the, policies and procedures.
Yeah.
I like that. It's true. Everything just needs refinement as we move forward.
Well, another thing that's being refined is you. Happy birthday on your
thank you.
belated birthday. You're getting more refined in your older age. I found some some pictures of us when we first started. I was going through my old Dropbox the other day. I'm like, oh man, I was wearing a suit and I had some hair still. And like, you had a suit on, man. You were like, woo.
He was smiling.
I can't even tell you the last time we wore a suit around here. Either one of us.
I think I retired those. You know what I mean? I don't remember.
I don't have them no more. I don't have any of those suits in those pictures no more.
Nor do I want to put those things back on. I like my shorts.
Also, you know what came to mind that we spoke about in the last podcast was that that investor played the triple play, and Will's actually a living testament that he's actually doing it. Single family house, converting the garage and adding an ADU, completing the triple play. So if you haven't learned what that is, check out the podcast we just did last week. We broke it down, gave you guys a little example of how that works, how you can get into investing if you're a first time investor and not taking on a new business while you're running a new business. Definitely check it out. Triple play.
All right.
Triple play.
Well, thank you guys for another great show. Thank you all for watching Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. Remember to like the video, share this with people you know, love, and trust. And remember to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so every time we drop a new video, you hear about it first. We got some more guests coming up in the month of July and August, or months of July and August for Friends of Mortgage Heroes. So we got some really fun and cool guests. One of them is actually a pioneer and leader of multi-million-dollar producers here in town. Really excited to have a San Diego Real Producers joining us soon. So can't wait to share that episode with you. So thank you all for watching. Guys, thanks for a great show once again. And we'll see you all again next week.
See ya.
See ya.
So if you enjoyed this video and got value from it, subscribe right here. And if you want to watch another video, click right here.